So believe you're able to see my screen now. A thumbs up would be great so that I can. Okay, great. I believe for the last 2 days, you have been hearing to wonderful presentations from the experts in the industry on industry as well as academia and the technical side of it, of what is happening in the generative AI space and a lot of things, I would say. Uh, Here, I will not be dwelling much into the space of, I would say, technology, but per se, I don't want to go very deep into it because I know most of you have started hearing it and you might have become an expert by now. So mostly, I'll try to take you through a bit different topic. You might have already heard about it, but also something that's related to social impact, okay, or social impact innovations, and how generative AI can make a potential difference or a potential change in this particular segment of life. Now, said that, before we start into it, because it's my duty to just give you some of AI. I know most of you know about AI, and all of you might have already started working on some parts of the artificial intelligence. Okay, so the word AI or artificial intelligence, even though it has been existing for more than 5 to 6 decades for now, there is a huge uh, there is a huge formation behind it, and there is a lot of algorithmic contribution by many great scientists who have been trying their best, because there has been always a peak period, like you might have seen the presentation where the Gartner hype cycle was presented by Sunil sir. So when you look at the larger space of it, so there is always a peak and always there is a dip for any tech. So AI has been going through this for the past 6 decades. If you look at the history of AI, at least for the last 60 to 70 years, I would say, where there was a time it went, there was cold periods for it. There was times it went very high. There are times when many of us started using. If you look at from TCS perspective, for the last 10 years, we have been trying to understand how to make use of, at least our initial stages were to understand the various algorithms and use it. The computing powers were not great to take it up. But later on, I would say we started in from the Tata perspective, at least in the last 8 years, we slowly started adopting some of the algorithms. So after adopting some of the algorithms, then we understood that it is not an easy game, because training data itself is very difficult to collect. So the propagation happened when collecting data, especially when you collect the data, it is very important that the data that is collected is also ethically um, adhering to the standards, because those days the GDPR was not something that we were looking into. But from the Tata ethics perspective, we had to adhere to all the standards of creating the right data. And if you look at the larger spectrum of the data that we have been trying to also work with, is we have to clean the data. We have to make sure the data that comes into the system is makes sense. It is harmonized. We call it as the harmonization strategy. And overall, we were trying to make sure that any technology or any advanced features that we are trying to develop has the right content behind it. Now, I believe you have seen this slide many times, but just for the sake of introducing it again. So starting from the 1950s, so you can see the first neural network was introduced, which is called the perceptron. Then came the basic chatbot. Okay, so you can see Elisa chatbot in 1964. Gen AI has been there for a long period of time. It's just because of the computing capability, data capability, issues of getting a harmonized data, issues of getting the right channelized data was the issue here. So then came the RNN networks coming in. Then LSTMs were introduced, and you can see the autoencoders. I'm not going deep into all this, but at least autoencoders, transformers came into the picture, which actually changed the way the technology started evolving. Then there was a huge breakthrough through GANs. So in 2017, I would say, we started integrating the basics of GAN's diffusion models and stuff for several purposes in our labs in Trivandrum Rapid Labs. So there we couldn't achieve much of the results, but in 2018 per se, in GANs we were able to bring in uh, some, I would say at least 2018-19 we were able to bring in some breakthroughs in the research from our end, also in the TCS perspective, specifically in the deep speech, also understanding how multivariant speech algorithms could be brought in. So as you see, then 2021, DOLE was introduced, and then it is all history now. We have been using every now and then the biggest evolutions here. So this is the Gartner hype cycle for August 2023, as you see here. So this is a very important thing because generative AI has been there as the peak of inflated expectations for the past 2 years, and it has been there. It has been there for last two I would say cycles of Gartner hype cycle. So it means that it is going to stay there, and it will go through the stuff of disillusionment as well as the slope of enlightenment before it goes to the stabilization of productivity. But any technology, if it has remained there for more than two cycles of a Gartner stuff, it means that it is making some sense in the business side, some sense in the technical side, and it has started propagating much deeper into the nerves of the people side. Okay, so it becomes more people centric, and that's what you have been seeing with chat gpts or the clouds or even the dollies or the mid journeys have all started going deeper into our ecosystem of productivity. Now, are we all afraid of ChatGPT? I would say this is some of the questions that we have been getting all across because people started responding, especially the European Union now started dealing with ChatGPT from the word responsible, how we have to use it responsibly. Even there are some of the systems today, especially if you look at the systems from the perspective of cloud, that is by Anthropic. So Anthropic's cloud is much farther and this much better in the sense of creating a very harmonized system or very responsible AI, because you start asking it questions which is highly negative, it will say I cannot answer it. So people have started integrating that, but there is always a question whether ChatGPT might take away the multiple jobs. So I would say no, because let's see it in the next slide what we are trying to do and what are we trying to make sure, kind of. Now, I think this is also something that we have to understand. So all of us have been using some of these things here and there in the system. So if you see here, we have been reading books. Now, I believe you have started, some of us at least started buying the iPads or the Amazons, whatever that is there. Does that stop us from reading the book, or does that stop us from using technology or completely eradicating the book culture? No, it's not going to happen, because most of us actually read book through multiple means now. So you look at the calculator stories, or if when you look at how we have been doing the online shopping, it doesn't mean that many of them have stopped doing it, but things got much better. So that's what is happening, even the teams meetings. So it doesn't mean that technology is completely going to eradicate something or entire job is going to completely eliminate it. Let's think the case of our home. If you look at the kitchen, so in the kitchen itself, you might see there are several things that has enabled us. For example, the fridge or the mixies or the oven. All these were inventions at some point of time. So similar to ChatGPT, these might have this have come to ease the work of a person. So you have to look at ChatGPTs or any Gen AI algorithms or any such platforms. This will actually ease in your daily life or the productivity of your entire sense in one or the other sense. So you will see that how it happens, and that's how the Netflixes and the servers have come into being. So mostly we would call it, you should start embracing it. You should start adopting it, because if you start ignoring it, it is going to be, because AI is something which you cannot ignore as of now, because the last 5 year growth is so huge. There are times when we call it is exceeding the Moore's law, and even Moore's law is becoming more of like absolute when you look at the larger growth of AI. Now, what is Gen AI? I think most of you know that. So what are the basic characteristics that we are going to see is basically from the creativity perspective, autonomy perspective, adaptability perspective. So there is a lot of, if you ask me what are the major four ingredients that makes Gen AI or any chat GPT or any such platforms, is one is it's very large. So it has been trained on a huge model. That's the reason why it's called LLMs. So there is a huge amount or a large amount of data in the background that does the activity. So this data might be text data. It might be a lot of data from the side of it, voice side of it, audio side of it. I'll show you some of the how the data has been taken up. Then secondly, you will see that it's a language based model, because most of these try to attach a text to something, and what is the relationship between the text and that image, or text and the voice, or text and the video frames, or text and whatever that comes out as an output. So multimodal outputs, whatever we call it. So that is another second piece of it. So one is the largeness of the model. Second is the humongous amount of attachment that is given to that using the language specificities. Third is the algorithms that goes in. It can be the transformer algorithms, and fourth is going to be the generativeness behind it. So as you know, most of you have heard about BERTs, that is the transformer encoder decoder algorithms by Google. So there is several such algorithms that is actually going in the background, like the VAs, that the auto encoders that is there in the background. So there is a lot of algorithms that is actually going in the background, so that help us in establishing the larger journey of it. And finally, as I've told you, the generativeness, or the GANs, generative adversarial networks. So these are the four major, I would say, the mechanism that contributes to it. Then the different applications that comes out of it, like the content creation, data synthesis, GPT-3s and the GPT-4s, whatever that happens. I might have already experienced the GPT 3.5 and 4 through ChatGPT, or multiple other platforms that is there. Uh, Next is, what is the applications if you look at it? So almost all these applications are something we have been working from the industry perspective. One is identity protection. So you might be thinking, what is identity protection? Identity protection is more of like when you create test data or synthetic data. We try to do a lot of identity protection from the GDPR perspective. If you look at Europe, UK, and all, you cannot use the data that is provided to the customer for any training purposes here. So we have to protect the identity. So we have to use a lot of we were using a lot of algorithms, manual efforts earlier, to protect that and then create the data. And many a times that can go wrong too. But today, Gen AI is doing that job pretty well, and most of you might have done it also using the ChatGPT stuff. Image processing, yes. So a lot is happening today, especially from the perspective, you might have already started doing it for profile image creations and stuff. So from the business perspective, we have been using this specifically for checking for adversities, or even we have a very exciting use case today we are working on is with one of the biggest pharma companies, to understand, okay, what is whatever the instructions given on a medicinal package is right or wrong. So if say any spelling mistake is there, so every instruction has been given, or the printing of that instructions were correct or wrong. So this has to happen in every, I would say, 2 to 3 seconds when the medicine is going through a conveyor belt. So that is the kind of problems that we are dealing, and a lot of Gen AI is being used in this particular segment. Audio synthesis, a lot, we would say, because today we have been working with Google's, especially for people having muscular dystrophy, and a lot in the social impact side also, because this is specifically for creating voice who are having slurred voice. You might have heard, you met people where they have difficulty in speaking. So and you might have seen that also. There's a application for Google. Multiple Google applications are there, but in the Google applications, when you start speaking, especially the ones that convert your speech to text, for slurred speech, it never worked earlier, but now we are training the speech to text applications using a lot of data, and that data is going to generative AI, and we are trying to make contextual analysis of people having muscular dystrophy, and people having difficulty to speak, and how to decrypt what is the communication that they are. So client segmentation, I'm not going very deeper into it because that's like, for example, profile segmentation across the globe, sentimental analysis, because that's also very important, especially in the retail side of the world, call center side of the world. We have it. Fraud detection heavily being used now today, especially in the banking scenario, because we have a few banks today who have adopted to fraud detection, understanding how the fraud is happening, what are the different types of fraud that can happen from that contextual knowledge. Then healthcare, a area where a lot of people have started using, especially healthcare chatbots, understanding how to interact with, especially in Europe and US, people have started integrating Gen AI into it. And trend analysis. Yes. So to identify, okay, what is the differences? So, for example, you take a dress. So how the trend of this dress would look like in the next few years, or the shape and size, the color combination. So all those kind of things are being done in this part of the world. So this is what overall applications from an industrial perspective I can bring to you. This is how the model layer, as this is something which we took from the secure gap, because they are one of the biggest funders of the major platforms out there in the world. So here you will see text, code, image, speech, video, 3D arts. Okay, and from that perspective, you can see how what is happening in the model layer and what is happening in the application layer. So what are the different types of applications from the models that is being, so from GPT-3, DeepMind, Facebook OPT, Hugging Faces, Cohere, Anthropic AI2. So Alibaba is doing a lot of discovery in this particular area. So you'll see a lot of things happening from text perspective, code perspective. What is the model layers that is being there? Stability is being doing a good job as of now. Then you will see image stable diffusion is doing a lot of activity, and a lot of changes are happening. So Dolly 2 is now almost becoming Dolly 3 in October mid. You will see Dolly 3 coming in. So Dolly 3 is going to change, I would say, the entire perspective, because you will see text being generated in the images. Because today, it's one of the biggest disadvantages is that. I'll just show you some of the, I don't know, let me see, yeah. So just for your information, because these are the open source models, you can, whatever you can do, you want, if you want to try it out, because especially from an education perspective. So Llama 2 is something that we have been using from an, but I won't say it's completely from the commercial side of it. You can use it because there are a lot of licensing issues here. So you read the license and then start using it in your applications if you're using for a commercial purpose. But research, okay, because it's almost like most of them are meta licensed. So look for the license and go for it. But this is something that the world is using the best of it for the larger use cases, training use cases. And here we have been using the 7B, that is the model size 7B. I'm not going to show how this works or not, because it's just 20 minutes session. So I just wanted to take you through what is the overall use cases that we are trying to define here. So this is what overall that we are trying to do, how the supervised fine tuning is happening. So we use 7B specifically for use cases where we have a hardware, because when we have a hardware, like think of a Raspberry Pi. So this 7B, Llama 2 7B is a one you can even on the fly burn on a Raspberry Pi and use it for edge AI use cases, edge Gen AI use cases. Do try it, because that is something, the next level of use cases coming through. And you can see how much of parameters are there in doing it. And if you want to get a flavor of Llama 2, just go to labs.perplexity.ai. I'm not able to spell it. So this gives you a lot of insight to try out, okay, different Llama 2 algorithms. Let me see if I can. So here you can come to Perplexity chat. So if you want to know, because Code Llama is the latest one that's being added here. Llama 2 7B is there, Llama 2 13B is there, 70 billion is there, 30. I believe you understand. 7B is the parameter list. So 7 billion parameters it has been trained. 13 billion is there, 70 billion is there, even Mistral 7B, and all those are there. So let us give a try. I'm just trying something, because this is open source. You can try it. Look, it doesn't mean that only ChatGPT 3 or 3.5 or the free one gives you everything of that accuracy. This is pretty accurate, and this is something that I would expect you guys to try this out. And it's very fast compared to, I would say, at least ChatGPT. Certain times I felt it. This is more fast and more contextualized because of the amount of training that's happening, and it's completely open source. I'm just writing something. Just leave it out. I'm just trying to show you an example. So you can see how fast it has generated the stuff. Okay. I just gave a command. Within I would say not even a second it took to generate it. So it was a sunny day in Trivandrum, capital city. And it is pretty much, I would say, highly contextualized to the terms as you have seen. So you might have seen in the previous session when Sunil sir was showing you. So it is all predicting the next word. Okay. But here it's not only just predicting the next word, it's also looking at the intra-sentence as well as the inter-sentence coherence of the entire stuff. So it looks very good. I just an example. If you want to try it out, do try it out and look at it has brought in, because even it has covered the entire perspective of it, and you can always compare this against the existing applications which are. This is the cloud one. Cloud is very good, I would say. This is not accessible in India as of now directly, right, except through VPN. But I have been using this a lot here in UK because it's available in UK and US, and it's pretty good in the sense it doesn't allow you to simply go to some sites and do some kind of scrapping. It's very ethically done. Let me try if something is working. So can you see that I just gave a link, and this link is actually not open to cloud. As it's not like ChatGPT, so it is making sure that you're not. It is not trying to go to that. Unfortunately, I do not have access to the view the links. It's just trying to say that it will not go to that link. Okay, so it's giving it in a very polite manner. And this is something which Perplexity has also been handling it. So cloud is also handling it pretty well. But whereas ChatGPT, we see that there is a lot of violation of personal data. Okay, so just to give you some examples, and there is something cooking up and coming up. I don't know how many of you have started downloading this. Go ahead and download this if you have time. Mistral 7B, one of the powerful engines, completely open source. If you look at against Llama 2, this is something you have to try, I would say. And one of, not only it's powerful, it is very useful for you to start your initial journey in LLMs and start your educational projects in LLMs, because it doesn't have any kind of stuff. Then I don't want to introduce all other things, but at least something that you can try. Jukebox, which has been there for 2020. There is MuseNet for music generation. Because I'm just taking you through some of these concepts here. I know we have exceeded the time, but some Gen AI statistics are given how the adoption is happening in US now, especially from the perspective highest adoption. Even I think every country is doing is in the marketing and advertising side, then consulting side, I think teaching side. So you can see teaching side almost 19% adoption has happened. So it's we should not be late. Let us start pushing this into our entire ecosystem is what. And how ChatGPT has reached the 1 million just within 5 days. Okay, it has crossed the 1 million stuff. Now, as you see here, what are the challenges? Safety, because I already showed you one example of it. So let's make sure that we are very. There is a lot of safety issues being coming out, especially people are using scamming data. Is there data security issues are there? Taking from the perspective of, I'm just showing you some examples. This is something which I just generated using Hugging Faces music gen. So just to show you what is the line I gave, a calm sound of violin. So it just generated a music gen. You can try this out, especially for music students, music people. If you love it, try whatever that's possible, because there is, and even you can you can drop an audio file. It can look like that, some audio file, some ARM and music, and you say that I wanted this in this fashion. This is a beautiful paper. Do it, how they have trained it, how the parameters have been adjusted, how much of data that they have trained on this. This is available here. This is more about that paper and stuff. Now, Dolly, I know most of you know that, but there is a catch in Dolly, because you see, if you see, this is a image that has been done through Dolly, but it looks very bad, I would say, as of the technology that got advanced. But here I will show you there is something that's coming up called Dolly 3. Do be ready. It is coming in October. And the good thing is that the sentences it makes, and also the words that comes in, and it's going to be pretty huge. So it is going to write the words, which today is a bigger problem in Midjourney. Midjourney is improving in that side, but this is a new research that's happening. It's a research preview will be released next month. Do sign for it, and the great thing is that it is going to come through ChatGPT. So directly if you have ChatGPT GPT-4 subscription, they will write the query, it will generate the query, and it will give it to Dolly 3. Okay, now there is a ChatGPT. I'm not going in. Jukebox I've already shown. So Jukebox majorly we have been using also for creating a lot of content, educational content through music, specifically for multisensory purposes for our neurodivergent children. So Jukebox has been used a lot in that particular area, especially when people wanted to learn things through a different using different senses, because you have been hearing it through your ears, but the different ways of using musical instruments and stuff to teach things. So Jukebox is a I would say classic example. Now, how we can apply a Gen AI from a Kerala perspective. So as you all know about it, and since I am just covering something from the perspective of social impact. So we have been facing several flood situations. So how we can use it for flood scenario analysis, specifically using all these kind of algorithms and giving some training data. So evacuation routes, resource allocation, kind of. Then how our traditional art forms can be brought back, like Kathakali, Theyyam, Kudiyattam, because I don't know how many of us even see it today, because I'm actually a huge fan of Theyyam and Kathakali. So I think there should be some kind of a art form, promoting that art form through teaching mechanisms to the larger audience. As you see, there are several challenges in local language preservation that's going on, because we all have the dialects and how the dialects works out. So there is a meaning behind that. So how generative AI can help in that. So I'm just giving you some use cases which can be taken up from the research perspective, or even you can take it up from the perspective, especially from the farming, ecological sensitive areas across the Western Ghats in Kerala. How sustainability can be used, and Gen AI can help you in that. Promotion of tourism, fisheries, especially our fishing community is a very robust fishing community. How we can predict fish population migration and stuff. Okay, and specifically our activity today is happening in Trivandrum, and a very close place to our hearts. I would say, especially being in Trivandrum for more than 10 years. I think agriculture, education, and also looking at the social impact from the perspective is something that we have been also trying AI there.
Excuse me, sir.
Then
Got
in the
to interrupt.
neurodivergent space, yeah, I'm just completing. So this is something we have been doing for neurodivergent people, how Gen AI can be used for their social impact and increased accessibility. And yeah, so I think we are almost there. So the biggest, I would say, challenge today we have also tried a lot is creating the Gen AI specific to a particular problem statement. So that's where we are using the open source models, so Mistrals or the Llama 2s, and creating data around it, and then training that with relevant use cases, especially in the healthcare, pharma, and stuff. And also, we are using it for a lot in the social impact space, which I have shown. So you can connect me on LinkedIn and make sure that we have communication done. Because of time constraints, I don't know whether I can take any questions. Thank you so much. I believe you got some idea on what is Gen AI and how the social impact can be managed using Gen AI.